Recording in progress.
All right. Everyone all set?
Yeah.
All right. I would like to call to order this March 21st meeting of the Home Rule Commission. As far as preliminary matters go, I believe I can turn it over to Matt for the roll call.
Thank you. Chair Dalton Willett.
Here.
Vice Chair Mike Foster. Here. Commissioners Clint Folsom.
Here.
Jeff Chu. Heather Craycraft.
Here.
Claire Dixon.
Here.
Chris Hansen.
Yes.
Ryan Hitchler.
Here.
Ryan Welsh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Foster. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
No.
Okay, first,
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Now we can move on to public comment. Individuals are encouraged to make public comments, but please be respectful of the 5-minute time limit to make statements either in person or virtually. Please be respectful of commissioners' time and town staff time and please be respectful of commissioners' time and town staff time during the meeting itself. Any questions from the public can be asked of commissioners and town staff before or after the meeting.
Where is Celeste?
Feels very empty.
Yes, I know. I was thinking the same thing. And anyone, Matt, do you know, virtually?
I don't show any attendees.
All right. I think we can close public comment. Well, it feels kind of strange. All right. With that, we can move on to item 4, review of the charter sections noted as second review, starting off with the preamble.
Okay, well, I saw that Catherine had made a suggestion about maybe adding another line at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think I reordered some of your
Okay.
stuff, maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought the charter was fine, or the preamble was good.
The whole charter, you're good to go.
Yeah, I think the charter is
I think
good.
that's
Yeah.
I didn't have any additional comments or anything on it.
I had,
I thought the additional piece that you added was good.
Yeah. I liked the last line there. I just cut out a couple of the words just to make it a little bit less wordy. Do you have that line somewhere? I can read what I have, but.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, I think it was in order to achieve these goals, we adopt this home rule charter as a framework for local governance and commit ourselves. This was what I think
I don't know that this is.
yeah, it's not there.
Thank you.
It's not there. I'm not reading from there. Yeah, we're,
I think it's the clean version.
I think it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I missed something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, no, he loaded up the right thing. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. If you don't mind. Sorry about that. I didn't realize.
Oh, no, it is in the red line version.
It is also.
Yeah.
Here's my
This is
second one.
Claire, you're looking at the part about
yes.
adding Erie's language,
Yes,
correct?
adding
Yeah,
that
that's the
last
part I was
sentence.
working on too. And it's not that. It's in addition to that, or,
Yes.
right?
Just as like a little summary.
Sorry,
No?
we have this like dual authentication now.
Oh, yeah. Isn't it fun?
It's like a total pain.
I know. I was fine with how it was. If we want to make an addition or some modifications, that's more than all right with me.
Sorry.
Oh,
I don't know if I sent the wrong copy to staff.
Yeah, I'm seeing, at least in the version I have, the clean version doesn't have it in there.
It has it in the.
It has it in
Comments.
yes, in the comments. And then the red line version has the actual language, the to maintain.
Okay,
It's this one.
I got it now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it out loud?
Sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't the non-red line one isn't that,
Yeah.
it does
In the
have it in there
comment.
too.
Yeah,
But, oh yeah, here.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not in the red line one. Okay, that's why. Okay, so in order to achieve these goals, we adopt this home rule charter as a framework for local governance, and we commit ourselves to its execution for the betterment of our community and the well-being of all who call. And that said Erie home because it was Erie's language. So that would go after that last sentence.
Yeah, my only comment was if we do want to add that line, I just like took out, for the betterment part, just to make it a little less wordy. And
So for the execution for the community, for our community?
we commit ourselves to its execution for the well-being, and I just put of the residents of the town of Superior, because all those who call Erie home sounds a little like corny. You agree? Okay.
Yeah, I support yours.
That too.
Okay. So for all the residents and citizens of Superior. And then, okay, so reading it from the top. In order to achieve these goals, we adopt the Home Rule Charter as a framework for local governance, and we commit ourselves to its execution for the betterment of, or
For the well-being.
of all the residents and citizens of Superior.
Can we strike the word citizen?
Yeah, is residents the same?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Residents is probably a larger group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Okay. Okay.
And the only change that I had in the preamble is the second sentence in the second paragraph, the charter enables. I thought just for consistency, this charter as opposed to the charter.
Okay.
Very minor point, but
Okay.
any other questions, comments on the preamble? All right. I think we can move on to Article 6, subsection 6.03. And I believe it was 1B. I think in the agenda it said 1A.
Let's see if I can. Doesn't want to. There we go. Well, I added 1B.
Okay.
That was what I added, based upon our conversation. We talked about sliding that B in there to just have that public comment shall be provided before any ordinance is acted upon by council.
I had one comment on that. It's, maybe start with the words "an opportunity for public comment shall be provided before any ordinance." Because public comment shall be provided, it says it must, that to me says it must be provided.
The public will speak.
But if the public isn't there or doesn't want to, or, so I think an opportunity, I think what we're after is giving people an opportunity. Yes, good.
Okay. Any additional questions, comments on that? All right, I believe we can go on to Article 11.
I had a couple questions. Actually, it's the same sentence in two different initiatives. So under initiative and referendum, the last sentence in 11.01, it says, as to that town legislation that is subject to the initiative power reserved in said Constitution. Same thing in, under 11.02. Is that necessary to have that line? It seems confusing to me. I had to read it several times and it didn't really make sense to me. I looked up, Castle Rock doesn't have anything like that. Everything else seems to be very similar,
So
except
it's
that.
just the as to and the rest of
Yeah,
it?
what does it mean? And then is it necessary? Because it's in both those lines. 11.011 and 11.021.
Suggesting potentially just having a period right at
Yeah, so
electors
take
of
it
the
out.
town.
Right after town.
Yeah, you can probably take it out. You have the cite to the Constitution already in the
Yeah.
part of that sentence. And that's what it's kind of referring back to the first phrase of that sentence. So yeah, you could probably take it out.
Okay. I support that.
Yeah,
I do.
that's fine with me.
And so to Chris's point is 11.021 could that entire paragraph be struck? Because it's just repetitive of what's up above.
Well, one's initiative and one's referendum.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so
All right, so
I would keep
same,
them. Yeah,
but
I would keep
cut
them
it down the same.
consistent.
Okay, got it.
I do have another question about referendums. And it has to do with timing. So I see on 11.026, the completed referendum petitions have to be filed within 45 days. So that doesn't mean you have to wait 45 days. You can do it anytime within 45 days. But if you go back to when ordinances become effective, it's within 10 days. So is there an ordinance that once it becomes effective, it really can't be changed or it's hard to change? So one of the references it makes, where is that on page? It made reference to taking on some debt or buying debt or something like that.
Borrowing, yeah.
Yeah. So let's just say a referendum, an ordinance takes effect in 10 days and they go ahead and they borrow. How do you submit a referendum to cancel that?
But doesn't the rest of that language regarding the ordinance say, shall take effect within 10 days or as otherwise described in the ordinance?
I have the specific language there. This is up in 6.03 G. Each ordinance shall be effective 10 days after publication or at such later date as specified in the ordinance.
Okay.
But Chris, I think what you're asking, in 11.023, those types of items are excluded from referendum, not subject to referendum. So budget, capital programs, which we still need to discuss, appropriations, tax, so.
Yeah, and I think there's a section, and now I can't remember where it is, that talks about like what happens if a referendum is filed within that 45 days, that basically I think everything goes on hold. There were some options and I need to, here we go. Yeah, county council at its discretion to suspend the ordinance pending an election, the majority of the registered electors voting against the ordinance in an election, or the court reverses the ordinance. So if you were to have let's say just a borrowing ordinance, but let's just pretend like
Yeah.
that one would be subject to referendum, and for some amazing reason, all the borrowing documentation got filled out within that 45 days, which would probably be a miracle anyway, the council could just suspend the ordinance. It would suspend the borrowing that the ordinance approved until that election occurred.
Okay. So is there any ordinance that would be, once it becomes effective, it's hard to change or you can't change?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, because then,
Maybe an emergency ordinance, but they're not going to be subject to that.
because then I think I would want to go back to what we originally was in there was 30 days, right? Effective date, effective in 30 days, not 10 days?
No, I think Erie's was always 10. The state law is 30.
Okay,
But, so, under state law, it's 30. for a statutory town. And the referendum period is 30 days instead of 45.
Okay.
And I think we talked a little bit about before where this allows kind of flexibility to have an ordinance become
Yeah.
effective, but still allow actually additional time, that whole 45-day period for a referendum. to
Yeah,
occur.
so where I was going with this was that if something became effective in 10 days, that doesn't really give a group time to organize 500 signatures and get all the paperwork in place. I think that's cutting it real close. But if there's not any ordinance that once it becomes effective, and if it's within 10 days, you can't change it, then I guess it doesn't matter.
I
But,
mean, most of your ordinances are going to be just regular generic legislation that could be
Yeah,
undone no
right.
matter what, right? I'm sure there's something out there I'm not thinking of in this moment that could be difficult to undo. Some
Okay.
action that,
Okay.
you know, on the 11th day, the town takes some action that would be hard to undo. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would be done by ordinance.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
Another question I had about that paragraph 11.023 is that it says things addressing budgets, including levies of taxes, would not be subject to referendum. But in the notes over on this chart that you made, it says currently any new tax would be subject to voter approval before it could be levied. So new taxes are, is
They're
that?
subject to Tabor.
Right.
Right, so they have to go through Tabor, and then the town would pass, the town codifies the Tabor election through an ordinance typically. And so that ordinance would not be then subject to referendum because everybody would have just voted on the Tabor question. And that's why that's excluded, because the town just can't pass an ordinance to levy a tax. It has to go through Tabor first.
Okay.
Then you'd have double elections, or but the potential for double elections.
Okay, so that covers that. Okay, I mean, my overall comments on the section were, as I kind of did a deep dive and compared initiative, referendum, and recall, were that it looks like whoever initially authored this put a lot of time into like integrating initiative and referendum, and so that they're sort of streamlined and they kind of make sense. But then recall is like its own bubble that has its own rules that aren't necessarily related to these rules. and
Completely
don't-
unrelated,
Don't
yep.
seem like some of them seem like they don't make quite as much sense. I don't know if there's an opportunity to make this flow a little better. For example, it looks to me like in 11.11.7, under recalls, does that mean that you only have 30 days to return a recall petition? Because that's really a short amount of time to get the number of signatures that you need.
Yes,
Yeah, so,
like once it's approved by the clerk,
yeah.
yeah, you have 30 days.
So you only have 30 days. Is that a good idea? It feels like that'd be almost impossible to get, the number of signatures you need in only 30 days, especially when for initiative you have 180 days. That's a lot more.
I don't,
Referendum's 45.
Yeah, so we've got 180, 45, and then 30 for recall.
Right.
yeah, it's, yeah.
Is that standard or, seems like, because that's the one that needs the most signatures.
The recall?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's, I can't remember off the top of my head. Oops, sorry, if that's standard or
It's
not.
25% of the people who voted. Yeah.
So the statute allows for 60, so double the amount of time.
Why'd we pick 30?
Yeah, I don't know if we did that or
I
if
think
that's
that
what was
was in there.
Erie.
Oh,
or
no,
what-
that was,
This was,
we didn't change.
Yeah, we
anything.
didn't
Last
change
Oh,
meeting,
we grabbed it
didn't-
from Erie?
we didn't even really kind of
Correct. We
review
didn't
this at the
even
last
change
meeting.
anything
Yeah.
in Article 11 last
Right.
year.
I
so.
would say at least 60 days.
I'm fine with 60. I don't understand the time pressure.
No.
30 is too fast. I mean, it's
Yeah, I just don't see how you
No.
could organize in only 30, how that would be possible.
I'm fine if the state language right now is 60. I'm okay with that.
So state language is 60.
Yeah, let's be
Yeah.
consistent. Let's be consistent.
Okay, sure.
So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Mhm.
good
On
catch.
the wrong computer.
I mean, that's, yeah, you're basically telling citizens, good luck.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then 11.014, the town clerk shall not count as valid any signature on an initiative petition if the date of the signature is prior to the date of the form. That makes sense, and it applies to initiative and referendum, but there's nothing under the recall section to that effect. I don't know if we should have it apply to recall. Recall's got this other one that says written protest. The people can protest if they don't think that the petition is sufficient. I guess if they think.
That's a statutory process.
Yeah.
That's what that's being borrowed from, yeah.
So I guess other townspeople can protest the petition, but it doesn't have that provision that the town clerk will count signatures invalid if they were signed before the day the petition was approved.
Okay, so we're jumping around a lot, so, and like on topics and spaces, so I need us to talk about one thing at a time, because it's really hard for me to jump around in the document on the screen.
Okay.
So let's talk about, so we're gonna change this to 60 days, so the clerk shall not count, so we have 180 days for initiative, 45 for referendum, and 60 for recall. Okay. We're good with that. Okay, what was your next one? Sorry.
Okay, so just comparing the processes for these three things here, initiative, referendum, and recall, I noticed that this provision here, 11.014, applies to initiative and referendum, but not recall.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, why should it be
Recall is
different?
a totally separate process. Like, they are not meant to look alike.
Okay.
Recall, or initiative and referendum should be somewhat similar, but recall is a completely separate process. It's a legislative referral process by the citizens, right, to either bring legislation or overturn legislation. So the recall process is completely different under state law. They just happen to all be in this article of the charter. So I don't know if we really, our goal is to make them look alike, I guess. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's weird, but they are recognized as being different.
Because you would think, of course, the town clerk is going to invalidate signatures where the date is before the date of approval, even if it's a recall. So that's going to happen in the recall process. But I guess it doesn't. Yeah, I know.
Why doesn't it say that?
Yeah, should it? Does it? It's just kind of weird that it doesn't say that.
I don't know. I'm not. I know. We can look at it. Okay. So on the form of the 1104. So.
Oh, sorry. It was 1101.
Oh, okay.
4, right?
Yes. Okay. So I'm just saying that provision is not part of the recall process.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I
Does
think
it need to be there or not? I don't know.
I think it should. It's,
We might as well lay out the rules.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's, I think the absence of it, especially where it's in these other two, kind of,
lends itself to fun and games.
yeah, it lends itself to uncertainty and so,
Okay.
yeah, good
So
catch.
this 4.
Yeah.
I just want to, okay. And, okay. About between 6 and 7?
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I've got one more thing.
Okay.
11.06, procedure after filing.
Okay.
So within 30 days after a petition is filed, the town clerk shall complete a certificate as to its sufficiency and the validity. So the town clerk has 30 days to certify the petition and make sure all the signatures are valid and things like that when it comes to an initiative or referendum petition. But then I compared that with 11.11.8, And for that kind of petition, the town clerk only has 5 days to certify it. And I thought, well, why would they have 30 days to certify one type of petition and only 5 days to certify another type?
It's a great question.
Good question.
Love you,
Yeah,
Claire.
I don't know that I have a really great answer for you for that.
30 days seems fine. Wow, 5 days?
I know, that's pretty
You're
short.
gonna rush it.
Yeah, that-
You're gonna
Yeah.
miss stuff.
Yeah, that, I think more time on that should definitely be, or be consistent among them.
Yeah.
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 Sorry, I'm just looking at the,
5 days might work in a small town, but in a
Yeah.
large town, 5 days probably wouldn't.
so you want that to be 30?
Yeah.
It says fifth business day.
Yeah, unless
Yeah.
there's some legal reason that you discover afterwards that would require it to
Yeah.
be 5, but I'm fine with 30.
The only thing I can, well, so when you initiate an ordinance, it's rarely, there's no urgency to it. And when you do a referendum, I mean, like we talked about earlier, you know, the town can suspend it, you know, that kind of thing. And so there's less urgency.
Okay,
When there's a recall,
maybe people just want it.
That person can continue to enact legislation while the town was saying, get this
well,
person
they're
out of here.
one of many. They can't just do it on their own, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but the point was,
the
get 'em-
urgency. That's why I think, and there's the protest period. So there's also this period. So you've got the
Mm.
protest period added in there, and then that kind of thing. So that's what I think the reasoning is. But I don't.
Yeah.
I just think 5 business days.
Because it is going to be thousands of signatures,
the
right?
2,000.
Yeah.
You're gonna rush it, you're gonna make mistakes. Someone said a small town. I mean, 30 sounds like a lot, like if the town's
It
heated,
does.
but 5
Well,
seems like
a
you'll make
maximum.
mistakes. I don't,
So
15?
15? Because I understand the point about if this is related to a recall and the community's desire to recall that particular individual, there's probably a sense of urgency around
Yeah.
it. But I also absolutely respect that mistakes can be made in 5 days or less. So maybe 15 is,
Or 10 business
10
days. That's
business
2 weeks.
days.
That's 2
Yeah.
weeks.
That's 2 weeks.
it's 2 weeks.
it's what, 200 signature verifications a day?
Well, it is
How do you
20,
verify?
it's 25% of the number of votes that were actually cast.
Right, so if we're
So-
averaging 12,000 votes.
No.
No, we have 10,000,
8,000.
10,000 elect, or voters in the town. And how many do we usually get out for a vote usually?
Maybe 4,000 at the
Yeah,
most.
4,000. yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So about 1,000.
It's
still a lot.
Still
it's a lot, but
I think, I mean, we have election
They're good at
days.
it,
and you know, they'll know it's kind of, they might be coming because they will have been involved in the petition part at the
Yeah.
beginning. And so they'll kind of know, I mean, they'll be,
2 weeks sounds reasonable to me.
And
so 10 business days.
And
10?
maybe a question for Matt, in that case, would the town clerk be the sole individual reviewing and
probably
looking at
have
each
some-
signature?
No, we have the deputy town clerk as well.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
And then if there's a question about signature, we bring in the
So there's
attorneys.
multiple resources that
Yep.
could be, okay. Yeah. I like 10 days, 10 business days.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else you got, Claire?
Good.
What else have we
Yeah,
got,
good
Josh?
catch.
Well, I don't know if this matters at all. Just another difference that I noticed was the petition committee for initiative and recall says 2 people. I don't know if that's a max of 2 people or a minimum of 2 people. It just says, I can't remember where it is, but it's 2 people. And then
11.03.
11.03,
okay. And then for recall, it's minimum of 3, max of 5. So I don't know if that matters.
Again,
but-
I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Being drafted at different times, I don't know.
Yeah. Or,
I have an additional question on that one. You have in your notes that the state does not require the people who do that to be registered voters or registered electors of the town. But
The
we,
petition committee?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming we can do that, but
Yeah, you can.
why would a town allow people who weren't residents of the town or elected?
To
electors?
initiate?
Yeah.
So I've only seen it happen like a couple of times, and it's been marijuana related, where, you know, a group of people from outside the community want to see the passage of marijuana legislation in that community, and they start the initiative process.
Okay. Okay.
About the petition committee on recall, Claire. It's actually hard to find 3 people to raise their hand and say, I'll lead this effort. Like, it's no small task. And so I think 3 is probably there because it's kind of a high
Another
bar.
barrier.
It's a little bit of a high bar. I don't know why more than 5, but maybe it just gets cumbersome to manage who's handling what packets and stuff. I don't necessarily see a problem with it, but it is odd.
These are great questions. I don't think anybody's ever asked them.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an issue for anybody or if just leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and for me, kind of, I also think to Ryan's point, the only thing that kind of stood out to me as odd is the cap on the number for the petition committee. I mean, I thought if 7 people or 10 or 15 people for whatever reason, I personally don't see that happening, but if they wanted to and they managed to do that, I think that seems fine. I don't see a scenario with that happening. I think the 3 is a good number because it sets the bar a little bit higher than the normal kind of petition process earlier, but the cap just seemed a little odd to me.
What would you all think of just saying 3 people?
Minimum
kind of
of
like
3?
above,
Yeah,
or a minimum of
At
3
least.
or whatever. I mean,
more than 5 is weird.
3.
You ain't gonna find it.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. But that's where I thought having that explicit language, no more than 5, just seemed
Yeah.
odd to
Yeah,
me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's just take it out.
so not less than 3 registered electors?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it could be 17.
Yeah.
There's an enthusiastic community.
I mean,
I think staff's kind of like, oh, really? we have to
I'm like,
we have to communicate with 17 people about this. I think that's probably where the max is coming from.
Yeah, but that's their own self-imposed red tape, you know? It's like, why? Sure, you can.
any other kind of questions, comments? I know, Catherine, you had a note up a little higher, 11.023 on capital programs.
Yeah, so I think we talked briefly about this last time, that this term actually does appear in the charter. It's not the term used in Superior's budget or Erie's or Eagles for that matter. But this long-range capital planning programs and the concept, which is very similar to the terminology Superior uses, is I think it's capital improvement plans, if I remember correctly, yeah. And so it's probably covered by that term. It's a pretty generic term, and those terms are often used like kind of interchangeably. What we talked about last time is that it is unlikely that, outside the budgeting process, that a capital improvement plan or a capital program or whatever would be approved by a separate ordinance. That's not how the town typically does stuff. But I think if it ever did, it would be something you wouldn't want necessarily subject to a referendum.
So the question was leave capital programs in there or
Yeah,
not?
I just leave
which-
it in there. I
Yeah,
think it's
I agree.
an extra layer. It may never come to pass, but yeah.
So kind of leave it in there, just keep the language.
Yep.
Okay. Any other kind of additional questions, comments, going through Article 11?
Just another question about necessity on recall, 11.11.1, just that last half of the last sentence. It says, and in ordinances not inconsistent with this charter. Is that necessary to be in there as well? Seems wordy. It seems like it's already a given.
I think you could stop at that first charter, except as otherwise provided in this charter. I mean, the town has the ability to refine these processes if there's a piece missing by ordinance once the charter passes. And so that's why that's referenced in there. If the town ever wanted to come in and maybe refine a piece of something that was unclear, and they would do that by ordinance and not through the charter. And so that's why that provision's in there.
Oh, okay, okay.
And in
That's
ordinances-
unlikely, because this is pretty comprehensive. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just reading that sentence again. And in ordinances not inconsistent with this charter. That's a judgment call, isn't it? Like, if they,
Yes. And it's a judgment call made usually by the governing body. Ultimately, yeah.
I don't know, Chris, I kind of want to keep it in there.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just that it seems, to me, it just didn't seem like it was necessary, but,
I think it's a good idea in case the town actually does have to act by ordinance to refine anything or
Okay.
define anything in there, so,
yep, good.
okay.
Any other additional questions, comments on Article 11?
I'll just point out one more thing. 11.05, the affidavit of circulator. This is a requirement that the person who turns in the petition with all the signatures has to sign this thing saying, you know, the signatures were made in their presence and they're over 18 and things like that. That's also something that's not in the recall section. So there's not a requirement for an affidavit of the circulator in the recall section.
That's a good point.
It needs to be there.
And that's a lot of words, you know, to repeat, but
I wonder if you can reference the whole section.
can we just say that's
See,
An
Yeah.
affidavit as described.
as described previously? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree that it probably needs to be there.
Oh.
During, the thing we want to avoid during a recall is ambiguity.
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want any question about that.
I'll change this language. I'm just.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'll refine that a little bit better.
Yeah, good catch, Claire.
Yeah, great job.
Yep, crushed it.
Eagle eyes.
Any other additional questions, thoughts, comments? Article 11? All right. I think we can get to Article 12, open space. I just had kind of a minor item in 12.03 disposal or rezoning of open space. We have details on, we have the definition of disposal, then we have the definition of rezoning, then we have kind of a almost action associated with disposal after that. Should we include even just a line about rezoning after C? It seemed just kind of odd to me that we would have this kind of actionable item with disposal and nothing kind of related to rezoning.
So like maybe a rezoning of half acre.
Yeah, and I thought pretty similar language to the one that's there. Just something along the lines of, and I wrote this up, rezoning shall not be used with the intent to dispose of designated open space without voter approval. And we can put in like that half acre, because I know there were some concerns with looking at a parcel of land and rezoning it kind of parcel by parcel and then disposing of it.
Well, in C, could you put disposal or rezoning? Would that satisfy what, I mean, versus putting in another
Yeah.
subsection?
Disposal or rezoning of less than 1/2 acre of land, even if designated as open space, shall not require voter approval.
That would work
Sounds
for me.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Does that, that
But can you
would
then?
prevent someone from parceling out?
Yeah, that was actually my question, is that we didn't say anything about parcels, we said 1/2 acre of land. And we talked about this last time, I think, that could somebody take an acre of land and say, we want to take half of it, half of an acre, and dispose of it? It's a 1/2 acre, we don't need voter approval because we're just asking for 1/2 acre. But we said, I thought we said less than 1/2 acre parcel. Didn't we say something about parcels? So that means you couldn't
Yeah.
divide it up. Because what if you did have an acre of open space and you were allowed to take a 1/2 acre of it and without voter approval and dispose of it, then there's only 1/2 acre left. So then you could take that 1/2 acre too without voter approval and dispose of it. So
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to subdivide it in order to dispose of it, but yeah. Can't sell it off without
Right.
subdividing it.
So
And the public purpose piece is still, I mean, that's still there, so.
yeah,
I mean,
because
when
you
you
could
say
build
sell it,
something.
what's that?
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
When you say sell it off, I mean, it's still, I think, is subject to this, got to be for a public purpose, so it couldn't be like sold off and build a house on it.
But, I mean, you could sell it off and build a community center. And, I mean, is that what we want on our open space?
Well, I think for me, maybe not today, but 100 years from now, not knowing what the community might look like or what the needs are, that might be a decision that future town of Superior recognizes that there's a need for that, and that's the best place for that community center to be housed.
Or some other thing that kind of complements the open space. That's kind of what I'm envisioning maybe in the future, is there
Is a dog park open space?
Yeah, but I guess I'm thinking of the worst-case scenario, and that's where somebody builds a structure on it, and maybe, because we've been really protective of open space until now. And if we're saying that, well, you can take a 1/2 acre of a piece of land and sell that off to somebody, to a developer that wants to put in a community center and run it, and that's for the public benefit, right? So,
But the development of that parcel of a community center would still have to go before the town board for approval.
yeah, yeah.
But he's saying it.
I'm saying it's open
They might not put it to a
space.
vote, yeah.
And because we talked, my recollection is when we spoke about this last time was that we wanted to be very protective of open space now. And if 100 years from now, the community or board wants to change that, then they can send this to the voters, that they can make changes to this charter to enable that. So, I don't know, I thought we wanted to protect every bit of open space here.
Yeah, and I think what I'm struggling with is the difference between land and parcel. Because land is a broader term probably, but like in your scenario where you have an acre of land and then you have to subdivide it to sell an acre off, that's still land.
Yeah.
Even though it's been, a parcel's been created. I don't think the use of the word land limits that. I think that's what I'm struggling with is how could parcel change that or maybe even limit that protection?
Because if you have an acre parcel, 1 acre parcel, it is land, but you
This
couldn't
does
take,
not
you couldn't
prevent-
take half of it and say, okay, we're gonna take this, because it is a full acre, you couldn't just take half of it and say that we're going to sell this off, because you can't sell off half a parcel, right?
But you can create two parcels.
Well, something else to keep in mind is most of the open space purchases we made have conservation easements with other governments, like Jefferson County or Boulder County or City of Boulder, and you would have to get their approval
Oh, yeah.
to do anything other than have it as open space.
Yeah.
I can't think of, except for maybe some of the parcels we just bought along the creek, but that was with a partnership with Mile High Flood District to mitigate flood impacts. So I can't imagine any of those governments agreeing to use that open space for anything other than open space.
To your point, how could we write it in there so that the amount of land has to start out as a half acre or less in order to, be able to be sold or rezoned without a vote?
You'd have to probably prevent the division of land.
Okay, is there a way
Because
to
it's
do that?
really hard to just,
Yeah.
like, this is the word parcel is just.
That doesn't
it
do
means
it.
a lot of things.
Okay.
And so I think you'd want to keep the board from dividing land.
Okay.
In order to bring it down to, I think that's what you're concerned about.
Yes,
the
I think
division.
that's what he's saying.
I thought that's what Martin said last time, is that any piece of land, they're in parcels. So whether it's a half acre lot for someone's home, that's one parcel. Or if it's, I don't know, any kind of other open space, that's one big parcel. Like Richmond 15, or I'm sorry, Town 15 is one big parcel, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so my point is, if you just refer to that as land, then you could take a half acre of that and say, we're going to sell this off. But it's a parcel, you can't divide it up unless you're going to
And
subdivide.
I guess my argument is I think you could, even if you use the word
The word parcel
Okay.
won't prevent
So-
that.
And if you said, the town cannot divide
Yeah.
land parcels larger than half an acre in an effort to bring it down.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
yeah, however you can word that, I think that has to be here somehow.
That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna
Better
make a
than I can
note. I'm gonna need
articulate
a
it,
little
for sure.
like.
Yeah.
Glass of wine to work through that one.
I think I need a clear head to get through that one.
I'm just wondering, if we do that, though, is there any scenario where this would even come into play? I prefer it the way it is because there's a lot of restrictions already kind of built into this system where it probably is not going to be sold off easily without all these approvals of these other jurisdictions, but I just think giving future boards or future councils the opportunity to, or giving them the option to make some changes without a town vote is, I think, would be advantageous. But because I think if you put this additional layer of you can't, make smaller parcels, I just don't know where this would ever come into play. Thus, do we just?
I think it could, if the Town 15 property were ever to be somehow designated as open space, because that's a big topic right now, right? That if it is designated as open space, there's also a lot of people that would like to build something on there, whether it's a community center or whether it's residential or something like that. So it would be nice to be able to prevent that from happening. So,
Yeah, I think without this new sentence that we're working on, it kind of undermines the purpose of this provision because it could easily be, you could easily find a way around it.
Yeah, another more middle of the road option might be to require that, the division of property designated as open space has to be subject to ordinance, has to have a public hearing, that kind of thing. So the public's very aware that the town is dividing its open space property. So that's just a middle of the road, maybe compromise position. I don't know.
But even public hearings, a lot of people don't tune into.
yeah,
I
agree.
It's even with a public. I don't know that public hearing, and I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that
is the safety valve.
I don't know that that's very much of a safety valve if that's that's what you really want.
And a couple of points. Well, first, Town 15's zone commercial right now. But a lot of these properties that were, a majority or most of the properties that were purchased for open space were purchased with debt that was issued with the open space tax, so they can't be used for any other purpose except for open space. It's just as a safety type of
Right.
thing. Yeah.
But, so let's just say Town 15.
Yeah.
The Open Space Advisory Committee said, we want to purchase this, or no, is that OSAC, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wanted to purchase that with the funds,
Yeah.
Town 15, so they've got $3 million or whatever it's worth, and paid for it, then it's designated open space, right?
If the board approved.
If the board
It
approves
would
it.
have to be rezoned, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So what I'm saying, how that applies to this is that we wouldn't want anybody to come and convince the board at the time to take a chunk, a half acre of that, and sell it so it could be made into some kind of community center or structure. That's all I'm saying.
Without a vote, because that would sort of undermine this whole
Exactly,
idea.
yeah. So that's all I'm saying is once it's, if anything's designated open space, I think it does have to go to the voters for them to approve it to be done something else.
What
And
about?
then if it is bought by open space funds, then that money that, for whatever is paid for that half acre parcel or whatever, would have to go back into the open space fund.
I've taken a quick stab at writing kind of a section, just trying to think about a potential safeguard here, and I have no idea like the legal muster with this. Just
for it.
writing it right now. Rezoning of land regardless of acreage shall not be used with the intent to dispose of designated open space without voter approval. So if the town board had that intent in mind of parsing up a large piece of land, kind of half acre by half acre, that intent would run afoul with the charter.
Can you say it again for me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Rezoning of land regardless of acreage shall not be used with the intent to dispose of designated open space without voter approval.
Do you want to say division of land? Because the rezoning.
Or division, yeah.
Yeah, instead of rezone, because they don't have to rezone.
Yeah.
They can just sell it off as open space, and then, I guess, once it's sold, then they can rezone it. So I think it's the division of it that you want, okay. Can you do it one more time
Yeah.
for me?
Division of land, regardless of acreage, shall not be used with the intent to dispose of designated open space without voter approval.
Okay. I think I got the gist of it.
So are you thinking that instead of what's written in C right now?
I think that could be below C, yeah, in addition. Because this relates specifically to division as opposed to, disposal. And the biggest thing that I was thinking of is you have that intent there. So you would potentially need to prove intent by the board, the council, that is their aim, which I know legally can be a challenge.
I'll have to sleep on that.
Yeah, this is what I just came up with right now, so I am not by any means married to the language, just trying to come up with something and think of not even a middle ground, but addressing this kind of concern. Is it possible we can table this language, give it some time to think about. You can potentially
Yep.
make mincemeat of it if necessary, especially from a legal perspective.
Yeah, we can absolutely.
I mean, what is everyone else's kind of thoughts?
Yeah, let's move
Yeah.
on and come back to it.
Okay.
So going back to 1201, the purpose that you drafted, I thought that was fine.
I agree.
Yeah.
Instead of citizens, can we just change it to residents?
Yes.
Any other points, comments?
One other comment, just in regarding to the Open Space Advisory Committee, do we need to add a caveat in the section on boards and commissions and committees that just, well, I don't know, I guess I'd have to look at it again, because we didn't specify any committees, but then in this section, we are specifying a committee. So I wonder if there should be a sentence in there about, subject to the provisions in Article 12 or something.
Oh, you mean back up in Article 5?
Yes, no.
No, because Article
Okay.
5 is just a general grant of power. You can go do this, and this is you doing this. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's, I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
No.
Any other thoughts, comments? All right. Moving right along then.
Sorry, just as a last second thought here on the town is committed to the creation and preservation of open space. Do we really create open space or do we just acquire open space?
Acquisition? Huh.
We can acquire if you'd like.
I mean, I
I
guess.
think just
creation-
preservation.
Huh?
I think just the
Preservation.
word preservation.
Yeah.
But yeah, good catch. Yeah, creation, we could, if we could create land, we'd be, be doing pretty good.
Right.
I guess if we had an ocean, we could
Right.
fix
Yeah.
in and create land.
Exactly. Thank you.
And then we talked about that exclusionary language
Yeah.
back in 104. Do you want to look at that?
Sure.
Or 1104. It doesn't want to take me all the way back. There we go. So G.
Enjoy. The word enjoy, are you guys okay with that? I'm not against it. I just think it's an interesting choice of words.
Wait.
Yeah, what is,
Isn't that,
what is the purpose of that word?
Is that
Really, no,
legal?
there's no purpose.
These are the rights of the council?
You can, have fun with your real and personal property. Exercise it, It's an old fashioned. Yeah.
Sorry, this article is in regards to
This is a general.
Rights and liberties.
Rights and
So
liberties.
this is
of
1.04.
the
residents? Or
So
of
the
town?
the question is it sufficient as is, or do we
Town
want
has
to
these rights
change
and
it?
liberties.
Letter G.
People of the town?
The town itself.
Oh. Yeah, that's a little weird. Does a town enjoy?
I guess I'm going
It's
to
use.
recommend
I guess-
to,
Yeah, the word we use now is like use. You can use your property, yeah.
correct, yes.
Yeah.
So the right to purchase, use sounds much better.
Yeah, enjoy is an emotion, right?
And so wasn't the question though also, is this sufficient for purposes of what we were just talking about with open space? And I think the phrase except as limited by this charter, I think that covers, in my
Yes.
mind,
Yeah.
covers us.
Yep.
There isn't like a technical reason for enjoy. Okay.
It sounds more fun. I don't know. That's all I got. Sorry.
You must enjoy
Yeah.
You must enjoy.
this charter.
I know. I was gonna say at that pace, let's put like frolic or something.
There you go. That's even better. See if anybody notices.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
She'll use them frolic.
Yeah.
at the public meeting, we will.
Yeah.
Next
Okay.
First Friday coffee, we should share
Yeah.
that.
Eyes blazing.
Okay. So now on to Article 13.
Oh, we got at the bottom.
Yeah.
On 1301, the town shall have the right of eminent domain, and I don't know if it's grammatically correct, is it of or to?
Of.
Of, okay.
Any additional?
comments?
I didn't have anything.
Okay.
All right. Article 14. This was one, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the towns was having some legal issues associated with their transitions, and this language has been updated.
Erie is, I think that lawsuit is still going on.
Okay.
Erie's being sued. One of the reasons is they shifted to November elections
Yeah.
through their home rule process. You already are at a November election and you are not, we talked about this many moons ago, that you will seat those individuals like you seat them now in December as soon as the election is certified. So there should not
Okay.
be no, fingers crossed, no issues. At least none of those issues, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That was my only kind of
Yeah.
comment in this section.
Seems
Yeah.
pretty mundane,
Yeah.
boilerplate,
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah. Any additional questions, comments? All right. Then we can go on to additional review. So the very first item was section 3.042B.
I meant A, sorry about that.
That was one.
Yeah, it was the one.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that trustees, council members sit on the governing body of some of your metro districts. And this would potentially prevent that, it would prevent that. The reference to the local government official, that they couldn't hold those two offices at the same time. And so there's a doctrine, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but a doctrine of incompatible offices. And it means someone couldn't hold two offices that, when they exercise their official duties, they're incompatible. So, an employee of one, where they are supervising someone who's their employee somewhere, or they're supervising someone who they are supervised at their job or something like that. So that's not exactly like government to government, but my suggestion is actually to remove this in its entirety, because that doctrine would apply to, let's say if someone was a House rep and a council member. That doctrine would apply. And it might not be incompatible, but that's the doctrine that apply. Or to limit this just to state government official and take out the local, since you have that. I think trying to delineate just those metro districts in the charter is not a good idea.
And as a practical matter, if the town council couldn't serve as a Metro District board, then there would have to be a separate election for a new governing body for those Metro districts.
And for the Board of Adjustment and for everything like that?
No, those are internal to the town.
Okay.
So the metro districts are independent legal bodies,
Okay.
legal entities. Sorry, not bodies, entities. So, did you want to say something? Yeah, so those Board of Adjustment, Planning Commission, they're all internal to the town, so they
Okay,
can
so that
serve
would not
those.
apply to those type
Right, and we
positions.
we fixed that kind of up in two. That allows for the current practice.
Okay, so those are not in conflict with each other? No.
Yeah, this is completely, so this is a local government official, which is someone who's elected under the statute, so.
So your suggestion is to either take this out or maybe just make it state elected
Yeah.
official?
Yeah.
They can't be a state
Right.
elected
Yeah.
official?
It's, I mean, this is in Erie's, it's probably in Eagles if I looked, but I don't know that I've seen it in any other one. It might be in Monuments, but yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the intent of this?
Of the provision?
Yeah, why they put it in there in the first place?
So you can't run for like any other local office while you sit on council, basically, or any statewide office while you sit on council. You can't serve in those two positions at the same time.
And you're saying that's covered by the, what'd you call it?
There's a doctrine of incompatible offices that could cover this. It might not, but it could cover this situation. It's not going to be as clear as this statement in here. But the problem is that the town currently has this arrangement that I don't think anyone wants to disrupt with the metro districts. And my concern is calling them out puts a lot of detail in the charter about a very specific situation.
So
Sense?
from my take on this, if we have a town council member that wants to run for state office, they should be able to do that while they should be able to campaign for state office while they're on the town council. And if they are elected to the state office, then yes, they would need to resign the town council.
Yes,
Okay. And that's what this articulates?
yes.
Okay.
But it's not completely articulated with the,
Metro districts.
well, yes, that and this doctrine you talk about.
This would trump that doctrine, because it's so specific. It would just say, you're not allowed to do this, period. In the
And we just-
doctrine of incompatible
Yeah.
offices.
Keep forgetting. Thank you.
I know, it sounds like a Harry Potter thing or something. There's an analysis that's done. It's much more case by case, could be kind of subjective. This is very straightforward. It says you cannot hold two positions, basically. So.
Couldn't we keep that part of it and then keep the metro and say, except for metro districts?
I was working away on this, and I thought to kind of differentiate it from metro districts, any other sort of internal processes, could we simply add hold to elected positions? Because no one runs for metro district.
Not,
We do have to,
how does it work?
we cancel. We-
Oh, so you do have the
Yeah,
election?
yeah.
Okay.
And the way the current board, they own a very small piece of the roundabout in the marketplace for like District 1,
Okay.
so that they can be district members for District 1, which is our water, sewer, and storm. And I think, in my opinion, it's important that the town board or council be in control of that district and controls our water, sewer, and storm. So that's just one example, but yeah, we do cancel that election.
Besides the metro districts, it's unlikely that anybody who has I guess you could run for county commissioner, that's another
Yeah.
local. That'd probably be the only other local one that you would be eligible as a citizen, registered elector in the town to run for. And that would be incompatible, probably.
You saw that in Louisville with Kyle Brown. He was on the city council in Louisville and ran for the vacancy in the state and won and had to resign in the Louisville City Council.
Yeah,
Didn't have to resign, he chose to resign.
He chose to resign.
it's wise. It's a wise choice.
It didn't happen, it voted
Oh. So you've got lots of experience all around you with this happening, so.
So the danger of holding a higher office and local office is, I mean, I kind of get it, but like,
Conflict of
what,
interest.
yeah, what would be an example of conflict of interest there? You pass a state law that
Yeah.
nullifies whole rule
It
or
makes it
something,
very
or-
difficult. In certain circumstances, you could really run into issues with legislation that maybe, you know, let's say Superior wants to do one thing and the state legislature wants to do another, and you're voting against your community that you represent here.
Yeah.
Your loyalties are divided, in some
If
respects.
somebody would have time to hold both a statewide office and a town council
kinda crazy.
office, more power to you, but I do think there needs to be a separation. If you are elected to a higher office from town council, then you resign your position on the town council and you're on to the next stage.
Kind of what I'm saying, can we just specify that language and
Is
say,
it-
you can do the metro district stuff, but you can't do higher office?
Well, that's why I was suggesting just to, like,
Just
one
remove
option
the
is to
or
say.
local.
Yeah. Like you can't hold a position as a state government official and a council member.
But you could hold 2 local positions. Yeah, that seems, that, I think that does it.
Should you say state or county, which could take care, because they're, I mean, there's county commission, there's treasurer,
That's true.
there's several county level positions that one could conceivably, and those could be, I mean, beyond the conflict of time, there's the potential, but I think if you, yeah, state and county would,
Ashley Stoltzman resigned.
okay, can you, please, thank you.
Why do we need this?
Would that cover, do you think that would cover us? With, in respect to metro districts and
Yes.
so on? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so just have, yeah, the language as opposed to local government, county. So then it covers state and county government officials, and then you still have the option for local.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone good with that?
Wait, so can you just, I'm sorry, I can't read that from here.
Oh, sorry. So, well, we're gonna have to, this is like just a note to myself, really. So this is gonna have to change, except as permitted by the urban renewal law. No person shall simultaneously, it's probably gonna say, hold a council member position and either a state or county government official position. I'm gonna have to refine that a little bit, but that's kind of what it's gonna say.
But do we say elsewhere in here that you couldn't be a councilor and a mayor?
That's in Article
We-
2, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, mayor is considered a totally separate position.
Right, but you couldn't, I mean, you couldn't hold both of them at the same time.
No, you can't run for, you can't run for 2 positions at the same time.
Right, okay.
You can be in a council member position and
Run
run
for
for mayor,
mayor,
but if you
right.
win, you're mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's addressed.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. Any additional questions there? No. All right. So next was section 3.13.
So this has a couple of issues. So the vacancy language here is actually fairly limiting. It just says, submits their resignation. A vacancy occurs and a mayor or council member submits their resignation. State law has obviously a lot more to it. The town's code has a lot more to it. I threw up monuments language there just as an example. While I think probably if this charter passed as written now and somebody died, they'd still consider it vacant, but I just didn't, I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way personally, that it only calls out the resignation as opposed to all these other things. And so there's that's issue number 1. And then issue number 2 was down here. It originally said council shall declare a vacancy according to the standards set forth in the by ordinance or the statute. That statute talks about how you fill a vacancy, not how you declare one. And so I think it's just the wrong verb in there. So, and then actually the third issue is that last sentence that's highlighted there that I think is a little inconsistent now that we've changed that language. So we can start back at the beginning.
Yeah, with the first one you recommend, and I think I agree, is just use what we are currently have in our code, right?
Okay.
And I think that's easy, it's consistent, and it's worked for us, and
Or just comparing, what's in that monument language. We only need to add 3 more things, I think, to cover that: death, removal, or incapacitation. And I think it would cover most of what's in there.
Yeah, dies, become incapacitated, resigns, ceases to be a resident of the town.
'Cause we
Or is
already have that.
Judicially declared incompetent.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of considered,
Yeah, the town's language is probably a little bit, by death, resignation, removal,
Or otherwise.
or fails to remain eligible for office or something like that. You
and
can always put
the
that.
main eligibility is that you're a resident. You've been a resident for more than 12 months. But I do want to keep in there that we say if we have insufficient candidates, because that's something that actually happens, right? When there's an insufficient number of candidates.
I mean, this is already for
Oh,
elected.
yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, there's, you have 3 positions open and only 2 candidates, so you have a vacancy. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can leave that
Oh.
in there. Yeah.
So I would say either, just say according to the town code, or I think we could just add in a vacancy occurs and just add to the list death, removal, or incapacitation. Is recalled or removed, or?
I don't know that recall and removed is in there. That's pretty clear that, and when you recall someone,
You are removing
there's
them.
no vacancy really declared because the people you elect are on the same ballot to replace them.
Okay. So the monument language says recalled and removed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
recall
But that's
or
not
removed.
necessary, is what you're saying. Okay. And then I guess the last one would be incapacitated or declared incompetent. But I think that's a good one. Someone might be in a coma or something like that, you don't know, or just health-wise might be incapacitated.
Let's see, hold on a second. So do I have them all? Resigns, ceases, dies? Yeah, okay.
I know this is splitting hairs on the word incapacitated. For what period of time? You could, maybe you have heart surgery and you're incapacitated for 2 weeks. Does that designate, justify removal? If you're in a coma, probably a different story. So I understand the intent, and I am not a fan of really trying to define everything because we'll have a very long charter, but I'm just curious how somebody might interpret incapacitated.
I guess to the point that they cannot perform their duties as a council member?
So, yeah.
But they might feel like they could, and others might feel like they
Yeah.
couldn't. I mean, that's an interpretation
True.
thing.
Yeah.
I would
I don't really know where I'm going with that thought just yet.
No,
It's
I know.
just-
I know,
But it's a good point, because it's one of those phrases that it's not clear.
Right. Yeah.
Or it could be interpreted different ways.
Right.
And of all those categories, for lack of a different way to describe them, it's the only one that it does not have a time, right? You die, you resign, you're recalled.
It's
you're-
incapacitated
it's
is
fair.
not binary.
I would almost say leave that out, and that's something that isn't there some other language, like if they're not participating for a period of time?
Well, monuments, I was wondering that. Monument says judicially declared incompetent.
That's
Which-
like going from the Little Hill to Mount
Yeah.
Everest.
And I was like, I don't know if we want to get, yeah.
Yeah, that'll take more than 4 years.
Like,
I would still say that our current code, I think what it says there works. And there's, it's not, I mean, it's worked for how long, Matt? It's been in place, so. I don't think there's any question in it.
It doesn't actually say anything about that, right? Just the or otherwise.
Right, or
Or otherwise.
Or otherwise. So there's a lot of leeway there. Yeah.
Maybe we take it incapacitated out to avoid the ambiguity.
Take it out.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
How's everyone kind of thinking with that?
So we've added some language to
Just added does.
1, but are we not referencing the code or the current ordinance, or are we just kind of building it
Building it
anew in?
Yeah.
Which I think is probably better because it's a pretty significant section and should be, I don't think we want people hunting for, like, what's the ordinance on this?
Yeah.
What's the ordinance on that? Yeah.
And then as far as like Catherine, your additional comment, just declaring a vacancy,
Yeah.
I'm fine with changing it to fill and just having that be consistent.
Okay. And because that's now fill, the last sentence, council shall adopt by resolution procedures for filling any such vacancy, because this says standards set
Yeah.
forth by ordinance or the statute. So I think we need to just take that sentence.
Just cut it.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it.
Okay. And then the next item was just any other cleanup review as necessary.
I've got a few, and they're super, super minor.
Yep.
Let me scroll down and find it. Catherine, I'll just ask, before this gets published, will somebody go through and just double check all the little spacings and stuff like that?
Yeah, we'll do it several times.
Then I
Yeah.
will avoid all of those.
Okay.
Where was it? Shoot. Oh, here we go. It is section 3.08(1), which is voting. Unless excused from voting due to a conflict of interest, every council member present and the mayor, if present, shall vote on every matter. That seems like a mouthful to me, and so could we reword that to say, unless excused from voting due to a conflict of interest, every town council member present shall vote on every issue. In 3.01, we define town council as including the mayor.
Okay, so every member of town council?
Yes, every town council member present
Okay.
shall vote on every matter.
I think, I'll double check, but I think we use member of town council when we're talking about the entire
Okay.
council instead of
Okay.
every town council
That's-
member.
that's fine.
Because I think that could be interpreted as not including the mayor.
Yep,
Um,
okay.
So, okay, so if present,
Because we just had a couple of if presents within 6 words of each other.
you didn't like that? That's weird.
It was just a little
It's a little
awkward
much.
to read. Yeah, it was a little much for,
Sure. And then,
yep. That was my next edit.
good. That's cleaner. That's good.
I think you brought this up last time.
Yes. Go.
Being excused. Do we know what that means? Like, what does it mean?
We did talk about
We talked about this a lot, I
I think
remember.
it's from the rest of the town council has to excuse the person.
By vote?
Well,
Do they have to vote? I don't know.
I mean, from my years of serving there, I mean, people would typically recuse themselves, not, I mean, which is kind of the same as excusing, but they would say, I've got a conflict of interest, or I know this person, or whatever. They self-selected themselves to leave the room for that item. And so, yeah, I don't know of a situation where the board itself or the council itself would say, all right, you're.
Can I be excused? Like that.
But you don't, so, yeah, let me.
Yeah, please.
What he's describing is typically and that's what this provision, it's the council member, the mayor says, I have a conflict, I'm gonna step out, and council kind of goes, okay. And that's it. Like, it's not a vote to say, oh, you're excused. I've never seen that happen. I've seen a vote occur when someone is being forced to recuse themselves, where council says, we know you have a conflict, but that's not what this provision is for. This is someone who's voluntarily saying, I need out of this vote because I have a conflict. Remember, because this is to encourage people to
Yeah.
actually have a conflict before just being like, I don't want to vote on this tough thing.
Yeah.
So this is actually someone coming and saying, I have a conflict. But it doesn't take council action.
Well, should the word recuse then be used? Or is that not correct? I mean, because we
Well, the
always called it recusal.
Yeah, the person
Yeah.
recuses themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think oh, go ahead.
It's just to prevent somebody from saying, I don't want to vote on it.
Yeah. And if it's just like, oh, I'm just recusing myself, I think the intent is to actually force the person to like acknowledge the conflict and actually like explain it.
Explain it, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I actually have no problem with that.
I think the other thing might happen, whereas like if someone comes and says, I have a conflict, and council's like, okay, what is it? And they're like, and they're like making it up while they're sitting there, and they're like, no, we're not going to excuse you from the vote. You have to vote.
I guess.
Or you don't vote and you get a negative.
Yeah, I could see that situation happening. I just, without explaining themselves why it's a conflict. But let's say the board doesn't all agree. Is that a thing? Like,
I suppose it could be, yeah.
like, is it unanimously the board says, yeah, we agree, you're excused?
No.
Where is that? How do we define that?
Well, the boards don't act unanimously. They don't have to act unanimously on anything. I mean, that's just not how.
I guess I'm saying, I'm maybe wrapped around the axle on this for no reason, but it's like, should we say one person on the board? Like, should we specify one person on the board can be the excuser?
I wouldn't go into that
So
kind of
vague.
depth.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the town needs to clarify it, they can do it via ordinance.
I guess that's right.
Yeah.
Any kind of additional
And remember
thoughts
that
here?
the town does have a current ordinance on this topic. We talked about that too, because
I know it's
remember
been a
the
few weeks, I'm
affirmative,
sorry.
negative?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. On reread, it looks, was that your comment too? Yeah.
I guess the other, to get rid of the excused concept, you could say, every member of town council, if present, shall vote on every matter, unless the member has provided on the record the conflict of interest or something like that, where they have to
That might be cleaner.
explain it,
Yeah.
rather than the council acting to excuse someone or not excuse someone.
Unless the member provides a basis for recusal.
Yeah.
That sounds
Oh,
good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the excused, that word, it does, it's a
Yeah.
little
You
brought it
squishy.
up,
It's
I
a
was
little
like,
squishy.
It's so
Yeah.
weird, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I will fix that.
Um,
Second spot.
Just in, sorry, Mike, did you have more?
Nope.
I'm not sure what section is. A citizen came to me and Clint, maybe the same person came to you, saying that they're about tax collection. I know we've long passed that. Should the city collect taxes or not? I don't necessarily think so. I think we've made a pretty good decision there. But I do want to just pull it up for public record for discussion that this person says that there is now a code when you fill out your taxes, this is beyond me, that specifies the city. Like there's a city code when you fill in your sales tax, it specifies the city. And he believes that that automated system would be easier to collect. The burden of collecting taxes on the city level should be easier with that change in law. Beyond that, like it's above me. So I just want to bring it up. Clint, I don't know if this person talked to you. Does this ring a bell at all? Maybe
Ring a
not.
bell.
He said he was going to talk to you. So I don't know if this council or this committee cares to revisit that. I think it's the right thing to let the state collect it and we come back with it, but just
And-
wanted to bring it up for discussion.
So charter is silent
Yeah.
as to the collection of sales
Oh,
tax.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think what we talked about was that we wanted the town to be able to make that choice.
That's right.
And I think I may have, this is like a way long time ago, but I think I may have talked about like a lot of my home rule clients have now switched to state collection.
That's right.
Because of that simplified system, they actually get more money because it makes it easier on the vendor to pay
state.
their sales tax in one specific portal, where you're right, there's like a drop down, Superior is, boom, that's what you
Okay.
owe. And they
Yeah.
actually make more money that
Okay.
way.
Got it. Thank
So,
you.
yeah, no
Well,
problem.
I did my duty.
It's a big home rule thing, and the state really pushed a simplified process, and it's actually worked out really well.
Say it was full of corruption and stuff too before that, so. Like before the change, it was easy to scapegoat, you know.
That I don't know anything about.
I don't know.
But sales tax collection is very burdensome. Staff would have
I
to
was trying to
expand quite
explain
a
that,
bit
but, yeah.
at the town probably, my guess, yeah.
Any other kind of cleanup matters?
Oh, I had one more. Section 6.03, 1B, and I think we might have already covered this.
03, you said? 1B?
Yep. Yep, never mind,
Okay.
we already covered it.
Okay. The opportunity part? Okay.
Yeah. Any other cleanup items? All right. And I believe we can move on to item number 5 in the agenda, next steps, public engagement and the public hearing. So we will be focusing on the development of some talking points.
And if I can, really quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So we talked about whether or not you're subject to the open meetings
Yep.
law last time. The answer is yes.
Um,
Because, I'm sorry, bad news, you are not dissolved until a charter passes or two fail.
okay.
Surprise. If it fails, you have to come back and do it again.
Yeah. Okay.
You missed that at last meeting, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, you are not dissolved under state law. So we chatted about it in the office, and the consensus is that you should comply with the open meetings.
Okay.
So you can absolutely meet, but staff needs to know so they can notice up any meeting.
Okay.
So I think to that end, for those that wanted to go to a Chili Fest or other community events to engage with the public, I think we just notice the whole group. And if everyone shows up, great. If not everyone, you know, that way we're just covered.
Yeah.
Can we rent a booth? Like one of the, can we get a booth?
Yeah.
Home rule booth?
Yes, most definitely. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that'd be great to have.
We got to pass the hat and pay for it, but
Is it expensive?
No, the chamber might,
Actually,
chamber might give
the
us a
committees
boost. I think the
don't
town
pay
committees don't have to pay,
for the
yeah.
booze, yeah.
It's like $100, $150, but I don't
could-
think committees have to.
Yeah.
But we might need to pay for cookies or something to get people to come talk to
Yeah.
us, so.
Oh, I'll talk to you about that later because there's a lot of rules around handing out food.
Yes, well,
As a-
and whatever, a pen or
donating.
I know
something,
you have a
something
couple of
too.
items that could be used at a
Alcohol? I don't
booth,
know.
right?
I have a spinning wheel.
Yeah.
I have a spinning wheel, and we can change the labels on it. And
I've got a
For
lot of
prizes.
game type things.
There we go.
I'm actually not going to be at Chili Fest, so I will need to entrust the
Oh, okay.
spinning wheel with one of you capable people, because
I'll
I'm
volunteer.
going to be
Yeah.
out of town. But yeah,
Okay.
I think that one event will probably be, I mean, that's the closest to the election. And I think if we have a good presence there and maybe pitch in on some yard signs and,
Yeah.
any other activities like that, I think we're going to be in good shape.
And just for kind of record purposes, we still as individuals can go about and chat with folks moving forward. If you really wanted to and were devoted to, you could do like a yard sign in favor of home rule. But obviously, I think bearing in mind like the open meetings laws, I would recommend it if you were going to do something like a yard sign or create yard signs, just notify everyone potentially.
Well, I think signs are a good idea, and I think maybe we, pool some money, get somebody to design a yard sign, and then we have a stack of yard signs that we can put in our yards and ask the neighbors to put in their yards and friends, and maybe have some at Chili Fest to hand out, or.
Well, we can
that's
put 'em
too
around the
early.
town, too.
It's too early,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can plant them
Getting candy.
annoyingly around town.
Can it say yes on home rule?
Yeah,
Yeah,
vote
that,
yes.
well, that's the thing I wanted to check. Can we
Promote it.
promote it with the open meetings laws and promote it externally that you should vote on the home rule charter using online communications? Or would it technically be better from a legal perspective just to individually discuss this?
So you all cannot have the interaction. So if you have the interaction, let's say on your personal social media or whatever, advocating for home rule, that's fine. But you all couldn't have an online conversation about it without the notice. Now, granted, that is a very public conversation, and I think a court's gonna be like, okay, yeah, so there wasn't notice 24 hours in advance, like technically it's a violation, but clearly fairly public, but it's still gonna be a technical violation. So you need to be careful about commenting on each other's posts and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And keeping your own social media. If you wanna post things, you just post things and you just, yeah, so.
But to
Okay.
Clint's point, if we want to pass the collective hat to pull together some funds to go out and buy yard signs in support of the charter, would we need to do that during an open meeting, during a public meeting?
Oh, to collect the money and make
Right,
those
and have that, and have
decisions?
those discussions and decide
Yeah,
on the
you
art.
probably want to
and-
create an issue committee.
Okay,
To do that, to really be formalized with that.
Okay.
So yeah, you need to have probably a meeting to kind of decide, like, we like this sign and we're gonna create, and who's gonna be in charge of creating the issue committee and do all that stuff like that. Yeah.
because I had a similar comment related to talking points to make sure that we're all,
Yeah.
communicating whatever the talking points are and on why we're moving forward to the charter and why we support it and why you should vote yes on it.
Be nice if we could create some type of infographic or something that just has all those points on it, or, the numbers, or just what's in this charter. Maybe even a landing page that people could go to, just to get a little bit of information about it.
You just can't use town resources,
Yeah.
Right.
right? So that's where you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Can your office provide guidance on this issue committee? I mean,
Yes.
I would imagine it's similar to what candidates went through, and I've been through that twice. It's not super complicated, but but there's some forms to fill out
Yeah.
and some things like, it's not a big deal, but that would be, if you could provide that to the group, that would be helpful, just would make sure we do it right.
Sure, you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I don't want it to, obviously, we don't want to run afoul with the open meetings law and I guess technically be in a position where you could have like the commission or vis-a-vis the town advocating a specific position. So it's like, we just want to be careful with that.
When you, so you're gonna have your public hearing, well, April 4th if you want it, or April 18th if you want it then, up to you. But the full swing of advocating will probably come after the board
Yeah.
refers it to the voters, is that, okay,
Mhm.
whatever base things.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
Mhm. As far as talking points go, I'm sure we all have kind of some individual talking points that you're thinking about maybe we should address moving forward with individuals. Are there any that stand out to you right now as major talking points going forward?
Well, I was just going to say, I'm happy to volunteer to collect what I hear tonight and refine them, and then at our next meeting, share them ahead of time as part of the agenda so we can, and I don't know if we want to discuss that before the public meeting or after the public meeting, but again, I'm happy to volunteer to take the point on talking points.
Can we talk about schedule real quick before I answer that question?
Yeah.
So I think we have the option for a public hearing on the 4th or 18th.
Mhm.
Since we're missing 3 members tonight,
Mhm.
maybe we should have
Two.
one more meeting on the 4th to discuss this extraneous stuff. Anything people missed from this review, and then the 18th?
But then does that leave us with no meeting after that before?
Yeah, we'd
we-
have no meeting
Yeah,
after.
So we only have,
No.
No?
I think you have
We have
the
one
final
more.
meeting on the 2nd, you could have a final meeting on the 2nd.
on May
Okay.
2nd,
We
Okay.
also have a special meeting too.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
One consideration, though, we did put a thing in the Sentinel, and that little write-up said
Oh, yeah.
the public hearing is on the 4th,
Good
because
point. Yep,
we had
good
put
point.
that,
Oh, it's already in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, it's not been noticed per se, I don't think, in the typical notice
Hasn't.
channels, but it was put into the Sentinel as because that was the last Sentinel before
Yeah.
that.
And we can provide an update
Right.
as well in the next edition of the newsletter, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have an
May.
April one going out, which could say,
And we can send out an
Change our
e-blast as
minds.
well.
No.
so.
You
Well,
were gonna
and-
attend anyway.
I mean, if you wanted, you could have a meeting a week from today. If you wanted to have, I mean, I don't know if the
Break.
ones that are missing tonight are gonna be available a week
Right.
from today. or
Yeah.
not, but if you wanted to do that, you could always do that as well. So,
I like your idea. Next week is spring break for BBSD, so
Right.
So
I like
your
the
idea of
idea
having it on the
pushing on
18th?
Yeah, right. And having one more meeting with everyone to go through everything? Just a
Talking
clean version or?
points, make sure we review
So
everything
on,
that's-
have the April 4th meeting.
I think
Just
so.
a regular
And then-
meeting and then
yeah, and
the
then
18th, the
public
public
And
hearing?
May 2nd would be the final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that'll disrupt the 25 or so people that were already penciled in the 4th.
Yeah. Okay.
So back to your question,
Mhm.
what are some talking points that were, Mike, what were did you have some off the cuff?
Other than, this is the right thing for Superior, it helps us with our controlling our own future. It keeps control within the town of Superior, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, I had the control of our own destiny kind of thought process in my mind too.
I'd say a starting point on the town website. I mean, even before all this began, there was a big Q&A and kind of fact sheet. I mean, I think we just build on some of get those materials because all of that is still relevant and valid. But add on kind of some of the things we've learned in the last couple of months. And I think the eminent domain, I mean, there was a thing on here about hot topics.
Yeah.
I think a good discussion of why that's important is that I think that could be a very scary section for some people, but it's also a very necessary function in some respects. So I think to work on that as a talking point, I think should definitely be included on the list.
This is kind of maybe jumping ahead a little bit for kind of the structure of the public hearing, but I had over the summer had done these educational sessions and had an agenda covering some kind of key points, and I thought these could be talking points in this PowerPoint presentation that I created. We had an overview of home rule, just kind of what it was, history of home rule in Colorado and Superior, the Home Rule Commission and the charter, a comparative analysis, advantages, disadvantages, FAQs, further resources, and then further kind of public questions. I thought that, as far as like a potential presentation goes, covers kind of a lot of the basis, and we can tinker with some of the things. I thought the comparative analysis I had was looking at a lot of other charters, but I thought we could look at what language is going to be staying the same based on what we've been doing going forward with ordinance or town code right now, and then what we have updated, and then elaborate on kind of the rationale beside about some of these advantages and disadvantages. I thought we could probably scrap that, and I thought we could maybe do next steps and a timeline for what residents can be anticipating moving forward with this, and then we can touch on all those hot topic items like eminent domain within the FAQs section. But I wanted to see what was kind of everyone's thoughts, maybe with a presentation kind of touching on those items.
Yeah, I would keep it pretty surfacey though.
Yeah.
And lots of illustrations. And, you know,
Yep.
like I wouldn't get too deep in the weeds.
Yeah.
But yes, I think those are good. Those are all good things to include. Honestly, when I've been talking about this to people, they say, "Oh, how's that commission going?" I say, "Oh, it's great. Honestly, it's probably not going to make any major changes." I've been kind of down, like, because I don't think it is. I've been saying, really the purpose of this is to give our town council more authority to make decisions, but we are not making drastic changes to how the town is run. So that's kind of been one of my talking points, that this is not something to lose sleep over. This is not something to get excited about. As I look through, most of the things that we've been talking about, maybe eminent domain might be concerning for some people, but I don't think a lot of what we talked about is going to be really controversial. So
Yeah.
I've just been kind of,
I
Something like that.
angle from the protectionist kind of position where it's like the state can come in Dalton's presentation during the summer, by the way, excellent, way better than I can articulate right now. But yeah, it's that thought. We haven't changed much. It's giving us more protections than
and we might
previously had.
let's talk about what are the specific protections that we will have
Exactly.
now that we didn't
Yeah.
have before.
Yeah.
Any other kind of additional comments on that? I think before maybe diving into hot topics.
So we're just talking about talking points or
Yeah.
hot topics too?
Yeah, just talking points.
I already threw out my hot. Out of order, as usual.
For me, it was mostly just that this is the right time to do this. That I think our staff and the prior boards have really led us to this path where, Erie has had to transition to a different election cycle. We already had done that. Our staff has budgeted the craziness through everything we've experienced. I think we're literally in the perfect position to move on this at this time. And I'm with Claire. It's one of those things that doesn't make me nervous at all. I think if we point out the obvious things that will protect us as residents, it's going to be something that we just need to communicate the heck out of it, but so everyone votes. But I think it's the right time.
And I think to that point, highlighting that, I think it's like 93% of all of the Colorado communities have done this, so we're not out.
We're not out on a limb
We're not
somewhere.
on the bleeding
Correct.
edge.
We have to be very careful with that language.
It's very
It's
specific. It's
very-
93% of the Colorado populace lives
Population.
in municipalities
Okay, all
that
right.
have.
So-
Less than half of the towns and cities in
Yeah.
the
Okay,
state.
so, but a
Colorado
majority
population.
of
I
communities
just,
have gone home rule.
I use that language, I got called out on it.
Yeah, it's very specific
It's like
language.
over a certain population, most
Yeah, I mean-
municipalities are home rule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's covering most of the population, but there are a lot of smaller
Towns.
towns that do not have it. But the reason they don't have it is they need the infrastructure of the state to perform those duties. It's kind of, as you grow in size and population, you get the resources to do some of these things yourself, and you have more needs for local control. But when you're small in population or geographic area, it's, you need that support.
Which gets back to Heather's, it's the right time.
Yes. It's beyond the right. It's,
Yeah.
we're kind of late to the game in a lot of respects, but.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things that I talk about is like almost every single one of our neighboring municipalities have done this either recently or more often the case decades ago.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so maybe some of the hot topics for the public, what are individuals? I mean, we've kind of touched on a couple of these key points, eminent domain and other areas. I also was thinking just in conversations with people, especially actually the Superior Youth Leadership Council, the two items that brought up were open space, making sure we had protections in place through the charter for open space. And then they had questions about affordable housing and what does this do with zoning? Does it change anything? Does it not change anything? What powers does it have? And I feel like that can be a hot topic that people will be talking about with this at least.
Do you think this affects anything with affordable housing or?
Not
Does it make a
terribly.
difference? I don't.
But I think people,
The
Yeah, the
charter
charter.
itself
Yeah,
doesn't say anything
it would,
about
because it gives us control over the zoning.
yeah, we have the control.
So I think that's one of the, I think, hot topics that we have to get out in front of, because that's
Mhm.
one of the main reasons why a lot of us got on this. But I think taxation and spending, people are gonna wonder if potentially the town board or future town board is gonna start taxing people.
I got that
more.
question before.
So, the zoning and land use, I think we need to be out in front of that and let them know. I have a few things down here that I think are good.
Real quick, while you're looking that up, airport, I get this question more often than not.
Yeah.
Is, will this affect the airport?
Huh.
So,
No, I
to your
don't
point
think so.
about being ahead of it, like,
Yeah,
I think we should be crystal clear or how this really doesn't affect the airport.
Doesn't, no,
yeah,
not that I'm aware of anyway.
Different jurisdiction.
yeah, it's completely different areas.
And then I see an instant lack of interest once I say
Oh, yeah.
that.
Yeah, you'd still have to deal with the FAA regardless of if you're home rule or statutory. Yeah, but I do think I would try to keep it brief, especially with the airport, just this does not change or impact things with RMMA.
So hot topics I've captured: eminent domain, open space protections, affordable housing. What does this change, if anything? Taxation and spending, zoning and land use, airport. I thought I heard one other.
That's what I have.
Okay.
Any other items?
I do think we should probably address some of the potential risks that, people would be concerned about, and that's creating a restrictive charter, and that we've intentionally taken out a lot of language just to make it a little bit simpler. Then costs of adopting, I don't think there's really a lot of cost, but some people could think that it's going to be expensive to do.
Matt staff time.
Yeah. Oh, and then potentially giving future boards too much power would be another, that has been a concern in the past.
Yes.
Mike, did you say open space?
Yeah.
As a
Yeah,
hot topic. Yeah.
Protection.
Open space protections.
I mean, it's explicit.
Now we can let people know.
Yeah.
Any other specific kind of hot topics? I mean, since we're pushing, I think, the public hearing to next week, we'll be able to dive a bit more into these items.
That's
too.
why I was hoping
Yeah.
for 3 more people, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because we're all coming the 18th, right? I feel like if we push it,
Yeah, I'll
I
be
mean,
here.
like my absence came out of nowhere, so I just want to make sure we're all in agreement that the 18th is good. 'cause-
Yeah, my schedule is.
Okay.
No, I just realized I'm going to be out of town that day.
Oh.
So,
No, I will, now that you said that. But I trust you all. Going back to some of these hot topics, can we talk about how we think the charter will impact these things? Like, in regards to taxation, we're still subject to Tabor.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like we're going to have a bunch of crazy new taxes.
Yeah.
So that's what we're. And how do we think moving to home rule will affect the ability to build affordable housing or?
Puts us in control of it, if we want to do it or not, instead of
And-
having the
and
government
where-
force us up.
Where we want to put it. So it's not whether we will have more or we won't, it's just that we'll be able to have more say
Puts us
in how that
control,
happens.
Yeah.
puts us in control of if and when that happens.
If and when some directive came from the state to do something, we would perhaps be in a better position to make a local decision. But in terms of does the charter allow us to, does it allow Superior to do something that we couldn't do now? I don't know that it does. So it's more of a, I think it's more of a reaction to, or it's more of a ability to react to something coming at us, as opposed to us being able to do or go after something that we couldn't before.
Yeah, we could already put in affordable housing if we wanted to.
Yes.
But now it's just, with this, then it wouldn't be forced on us.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would agree, I don't know if it gives us any more.
I don't think it gives, and that, you brought this up earlier, is that, does the charter give the council more powers to do whatever over residents? And that was,
Right.
and I don't know that I don't think it does. But that's a perception.
That's right.
Is that it's local control, therefore you've got more ability to control your local people. And I don't think that's, so I think that is definitely something that should be.
Home rule is
Flesh.
not a great name, by the way. It does imply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, any other kind of hot topics or items moving forward? Let's see. So as far as structure for the public hearing, now April 18th, we can probably discuss this a bit more in depth, I think, along with a couple of these items at the next meeting when we will have some additional members here. How does everyone kind of think on that?
Yeah.
That'll be a little bit closer to the public hearing itself.
So the presentation you would give,
Yeah, I thought I can give a presentation. I can modify the materials. If you would like, after this, I can send the PowerPoint that I created and then indicate that I'll make modifications for it. And then that can be part of the presentation. I was anticipating for the structure doing like just some sort of presentation and then walking through the charter as like a high level overview of it. Like we have this open space section, we have miscellaneous provisions. I don't think we need to read the charter to people.
no, I
No.
would.
Yeah.
But you would have a section though where you would get out in front of any of the things that
Yeah,
you think
that
are going to
would-
be
yeah.
issues, but then also the benefits of it, all the benefits of it.
Yep, that's where I thought,
Yeah.
especially like Clint mentioned, we have this FAQ right now on the town website. We can expand on that and say, how does this impact the airport? What is the risks that are associated with home rule. And we could just add that and cover kind of what questions we've either maybe received as individuals or anticipate receiving, and then have full answers for them.
Will we have information on which parts of the code need to be updated? What changes to the code we've made? That might be interesting. No, it's going to be too.
No, that's
Detailed?
that's an in-depth, multi-month
Okay.
event. I mean, there's some really like upfront things, like if you go to a town council, you have to change everything where it says Board of Trustees or
Yeah.
Board.
So the name.
The
yeah.
name, that will be a big one. To be honest, like, I don't know how many actual substantive changes to the code.
Yeah, it's not a
You're
lot.
aligning yourselves
Yeah.
fairly close.
Right.
So I don't think there'll be anything there's not going to be a lot of mandatory changes. Now, that aside, future boards or future councils may choose to exercise their home rule authority by changing ordinances and expanding things. But those aren't mandated as changes.
I do feel like in a lot of instances, we kind of deferred to the current code.
Yeah. And I don't think, for public hearing purposes, I don't think we need to get that granular, like talking about, I mean, the example was kind of brought up briefly, the positive or the negative, if you're excused or recused. I don't know if the vast majority of Superior residents even know that that is an ordinance, let alone we had an hour-long discussion on all of that. I'm like, do we need to spend time on that? I'm sure their questions will be much more focused on like eminent domain and the airport. And it's like, we can just let them know, no, it's not changing anything, or no, this is completely a separate topic from the airport. All right, but I can send forward this presentation. Would you want me to start making changes to it, or do you want to just kind of review it as is, and then at the next meeting we can go through?
Let's see. It's your presentation. I think you did a phenomenal job over the summer, kind of capturing the intent of home rule, and I think building off of what you heard today, making those
Okay.
changes and having us look at that, I think would be totally fine.
Yep, can do. All right, and I'll send that out to everyone's way for review, and then I suppose for next agenda items, because it's not going to be the public hearing, it'll really be focused on going through this. I guess we can refer to with some of the additional members if they have any sort of talking points or hot topics to address, and then the overall structure of the hearing itself. Are there any other kind of items that we think we should include for next meeting?
I think just to make sure that either yourself or someone can get with staff on the next Sentinel or the
Yeah.
April Sentinel and make sure we get, I would say the same little paragraph that was in the March one would be fine, maybe with, a few little edits, but then noting that the public hearing date is the 18th and final meeting is May, whatever it is. second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
think just make sure that gets, since we're not meeting before the 1st of April, make sure that that gets just in the
Yeah.
queue for publishing.
Okay.
When does that go out, the next Sentinel?
April 1st.
Yeah.
Staff usually tries to time it on the 1st, but it might be, let's see when the 1st is.
It's a Monday.
Monday.
It's Monday, so yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would say it probably goes out on the 1st, maybe the 2nd.
Okay. I can include that kind of update. I mean, that won't require too much changes. And then I guess another item, just reviewing the charter with some of these key points that we have is probably the first item. Yep.
Yeah, and then we'll go back over some of the things we
Yeah.
changed tonight, yeah. Okay.
Should we send out a notice before the Sentinel? Because if it comes out on the 1st, we're supposed to do, we already said the meeting's gonna be on the 4th. Can't we do like an e-blast to the,
We can, yeah.
I think, just, so it's not last minute.
Yeah.
I think if we just let them know well in advance.
Can do that.
Okay. All right. Well, I think with that, unless anyone has any other discussion, talking points, do I have a motion to adjourn?
2 weeks in a row, 2 meetings in a row.
Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. This meeting is adjourned.